Hello and welcome to the Story Shed, and I'm going to read you a story by the Grimm brothers in a moment. But before I do that, I'd like to talk to you about a game that I got, which is called Twisted Tales, and it's by Grimm and Co. And it's a story prompt story game, and in it they give you 4 different categories. One is settings, the place where the story happens. The other is objects, so things like a chair or a lamp, that kind of thing. The third is plot, and I'm not quite sure whether I'll get this right, but I think that's when the events that happen in your story. And the last one is character, which is people or animals that are also in your story, and you use them to create a story. Those are the elements of a story. And Twists and Tales is the game, and they send you several different ways of playing it in this nice handy leaflet. The reason I mention this is because I'm going to be using the cards over the next few days to write my own stories and see how it works out, see how it goes. I will put the description of the website, or sorry, the URL, the address for the website at the bottom in the description box, so you can have a look yourselves, because they do other bits and pieces, and it is very good, and I like it, and it is fun, and fun is good. So what I'm going to do now is move on a little bit, and I'm going to read you the story of Rapunzel, which is the Grimm fairy tale version. It's been translated by a lady called Margaret Hunt and modernized a bit by Leanne Guenther. Now, before we start, I have to say that Rapunzel is an old nickname for a herb with leaves like lettuce and roots like a radish, and it's also called rampion. Make yourselves comfortable and I'll begin. There once lived a man and woman who always wished for a child but could not have one. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen. The garden was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one ever dared go into it because it belonged to a witch who had great power and was feared by all the world. One day, the woman was standing by the window and looking down into the garden when she saw a bed which was planted with the most tasty Rapunzel. It looked so fresh and green that she longed for it and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day. The woman knew that she could not get any of it and grew more pale and miserable every day. Her husband was worried about her and asked, "What is wrong, my dear?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't eat some of the Rapunzel from the garden behind her house, I think I shall die." The man who loved her thought, "Sooner than let my lovely wife die, I will bring her some of the Rapunzel myself, no matter the cost." In the twilight of the evening, he climbed over the wall into the garden of the witch, hastily grabbed a handful of Rapunzel and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad and ate it happily. She, however, liked it so much, so very much, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once again descend into the garden. In the gloom of evening, therefore, he set out again, but when he climbed over the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the witch standing before him. "How dare you," she said with angry look, "sneak into my garden and steal my Rapunzel like a thief? You shall suffer for this." "Ah," the frightened husband answered, "please have mercy. I had to have the Rapunzel. My wife saw it from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she'd not got some to eat." Then the witch allowed her anger to be softened and said to him, "If this is true, I will allow you to take as much as you like. Only I make one condition. You must give me the baby daughter your wife will bring into the world. She will be well treated, and I will care for her like her mother." The man, in his fear, consented, And when the baby was born, the witch appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took the baby away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the witch shut her into a tower which lay in a forest. The tower had no stairs or doors, but only a little window at the very top. When the witch wanted to go in, she stood beneath the window and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the witch, she wound her braids round one of the hooks of the window, and then the hair fell down the side of the tower, and the witch climbed up by it. After a year or two, it came to pass that a prince rode through the forest and went by the tower. He heard a song that was so lovely that he stood and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her loneliness passed her time singing. The prince wanted to climb up to her and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Now once, while he was standing behind a tree listening to Rapunzel's song, he saw the witch come and heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of her hair, and the witch climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which one mounts, I will once try my fortune," thought the prince. And the next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Immediately the hair fell down and the prince climbed up. At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man such as her eyes had never seen came to her, but the prince began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been so stirred by her singing that it had let him have no rest. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was kind and handsome, she said yes, and laid her hand in his. She said, "I will willingly go with you, but I don't know how to get down. Bring a bit of silk with you every time you come, and I will weave a ladder with it. When that is ready, I will climb down and we shall escape together." They agreed that until that time he should come to her every evening, for the old woman came by day. The witch knew nothing of this, until once Rapunzel, in her distraction, said, "Oh my, you are so much heavier when you climb than the young prince." "Ah, you wicked child," cried the witch, "what do I hear thee say? I thought I separated you from all of the world, but you have deceived me." In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful hair, seized a pair of scissors, and snip, snap, snip, snap, cut it all off. Rapunzel's lovely braids lay on the ground, but the witch was not through. She was so angry that she took Rapunzel into a desert, where she had to live in great grief and misery. The witch rushed back to the tower and fastened the braids of hair which she had cut off to the hook of the window, and when the prince came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let the hair down. The prince climbed to the window, but he did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the witch, who gazed at him with a wicked and venomous look. "Ah ha ha!" she cried mockingly. "You've come for Rapunzel, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it and will scratch your eyes out as well. Rapunzel is banished, and you will never see her again." The prince was beside himself, and in his despair he fell down from the tower. He escaped with his life, but the thorns into which he fell pierced his eyes. Then he wandered quite blind about the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but weep over the loss of his dearest Rapunzel. In this way the prince roamed in misery for some months. and at length came to the desert where the witch had banished Rapunzel. He heard a voice singing, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went towards it. When he approached, Rapunzel knew him and fell into his arms and wept. 2 of her tears fell on his eyes, and the prince could see again. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived for a long time afterwards, happy and contented. And that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. If you did, then let me know at the story blog. No, that's not right. The storyshedblog@gmail.com. That's the storyshedblog@gmail.com. And I will be talking more, as I say, about twists and tales from Grimm & Co. Because, as I say, I'm going to be using it to write some of my own stories, and hopefully you'll like those as well. They're my gift to you. And you take care for now. Bye bye. Bye now. Bye bye. 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 Be well.